Chapter 5 Heartbreaker. Itoki K, Second Year, Class F. Part 5. But how did Boogiepop become a rumor? He's supposed to be a mysterious figure, his identity a secret. Who started all the legends about him? I asked Kirimanagi the next day after class. Probably Miyashita Toga herself, Nagi answered. We were alone in the room. Everyone else had already left. Eh? What do you mean? Miyashita Toga is unaware that she has an alter ego, known as Boogiepop, inside of her. But she knows it unconsciously. You know, like how you talk about yourself, but say it's a friend of yours? Same principle. She just told other people about her other self. That's it? You should probably ask Suema about it. Well, not specifically, but she can explain it way better than I can. I don't really get it. I don't know much about that bastard myself. Did everyone make a fuss when Yurihara Minako didn't show? The teacher asked if any of us knew anything, but nobody answered. It's too soon for anyone to realize she's actually missing, so not much is going on yet. But for a straight-A student like her, skipping's enough to get the gossip going. I'd called Yurihara-san's house the day before, but the answering machine led me to believe that both her parents were off on business trips. Nobody knew she hadn't come home. It looked as though the Manticore had deliberately chosen to make her move while they were out of town. But all hell would break loose in a day or two. Yurihara Minako going missing would cause a lot more problems for the school than any of the other girls had. Saotome Masumi would be buried under her shadow. His parents probably already knew he hadn't come home, but he was a boy, so they were unlikely to worry all that much if he was out all night. When was the real Yurihara? When was she replaced? Not sure, but a pretty long time ago. She had always been missing. It was just that up until now, we simply hadn't noticed she was gone. I guess that's true. We both hung our heads. It was a strange feeling. We couldn't tell anyone the truth. If we did, it would just make things worse for all of us. And even then, if word about echoes got out to the institution that made the Manticore, it would just be asking for trouble. So, all it ultimately amounts to is nothing? It's better that way. Yeah, I guess. We stood up and left the room. Together, we headed toward the front entrance of the school. Most of the other students had gone home, and the sports teams and clubs were all in full session. There was nobody roaming the halls or stopped at the shoe lockers. We headed for the gates, and the girl on gate duty was very happy to see me. Ah, President, thank God you're here. Could you take over for me for a minute? I really gotta pee. I smiled and nodded, and she bolted off into the school. Everyone likes you. Nagi grinned. Or likes using me, I grimaced. I remembered all the times that Kamishiro Nako had talked me into fudging the numbers to make her on time. which is how we got to be friends in the first place. Naoko-san is really... I said softly, suddenly horribly sad. Yeah, I think so. Nagi whispered sorrowfully. When Tanaka-kun had left us the day before, he'd said, I don't know how to say this, but I feel like I should thank you all for Kamekshiro-san. Thank you. He was almost crying. Tanaka-kun, what did you really think of Naoko-san? I'd asked. He looked at me sadly. Truthfully, if we had found her, I would have told her that I wanted to break up. But now, I'm not so sure. Was all I said. I couldn't figure out what I should say to her other lover, Kimura Akio. We would probably never speak to each other. If someday someone were to tell him, that person would probably be... But we all had to return to our daily routine, just exactly as things had been before. Naoko said something strange once. Nagi said, looking up at the sky. She said Echoes was an angel, that the Lord of the Heavens had ordered him to investigate and make the final decision on whether mankind should be allowed to live, or if it should be destroyed. He came here to find out if humans were a benevolent existence, or a malevolent one. If we were the latter, he would end our history. I was taken aback. An angel? I mean, I'm pretty sure she was reading a lot into this. She had a tendency to blow everything out of proportion. My guess is Echoes and Manticore were both failed experiments in biotechnology. But if she was right... But we're still here. Looks like we're off the hook this time. She smiled sadly. She had to say that. She couldn't let her friend's death be in vain. But I couldn't smile. Nagi hadn't seen the end of Echoes, but I had, clearly. That light had made it as if Saotome Masumi had never existed in the first place. It had turned the nearly immortal Manticore into a burnt crisp. That was no biotechnological experiment. It had beamed itself into space, but if something like that were fired at the Earth over and over again, then the one who really saved the world wasn't me, wasn't Boogiepop. Ultimately, it was that lonely little love-struck girl who was nice to Echoes, and we can't even thank her for it now. Nagi sounded almost irritated. I had no answer for her. I just stared silently at the sky. It seemed so far away. As Nagi and I stood there, staring absently into the clear blue sky, a boy and a girl came walking together towards us. When I saw them, I couldn't stop myself from exclaiming, "Huh?" One of them was Miyashita Toka. The other one was a third-year student with a promising career in design that I had fallen for and had my heart broken by. Takeda Keiji-senpai. He looked a little nervous when he saw me, so I spoke to him first to show him that he needn't worry about it. "Oh, senpai!" I said as cheerfully as I could manage. "Hey," he said vaguely. Suddenly, Nagi was standing in front of Miyashita-san. So you're Miyashita Toka," she said. It seemed that this was her first time meeting this side of her. Yes? Miyashita-san said, nodding, in a cute little voice as far removed from Boogiepop's boyish tones as possible. "I'm Kirima. Nice to meet you," Nagi said, and held out her hand. To an outsider, it must have looked like the school delinquent was out to get her. "Hey!" Takeda-senpai said, stepping up to protect her. But Miyashita-san shook her head. You too," she said, shaking Nagi's hand. Perhaps she understood this unconsciously as well. "See ya," Nagi said, giving her a wry grin. The two of them went through the gates. I stared up at the sky again. I wasn't able to look Miyashita-san in the eye. I tried to smile at her, but I just couldn't. There are too many things that just aren't clear. It should be simple to smile at someone, but sometimes that's a terribly difficult and painful thing to do. It's so hard to smile. What do you mean? I shook my head. Never mind. It was nothing. Nagi looked at me dubiously, but eventually she looked back up at the sky. Huh? Life is brief, young maiden, fall in love. Before the crimson bloom fades from your lips, before the tides of passion cool within your hips. For those of you who know no tomorrow. The autumn sky was so bright that it made my eyes water. It'll be winter soon.
An afterword from Kouhei Kadono, titled The School in Boogiepop. When listening to this, be sure to have the live version of Heartbreaker by Grand Funk Railroad playing in the background. These days, I rarely have them, but back in my early 20s, I often had dreams about high school. Dreams in which I was going to high school, not dreams about having gone. I'm talking about in the present tense, as a 20-something adult, putting on a uniform. The old kind with the clasp and going to school. In the dreams, I knew clearly that I had graduated several years before, but I was pretending not to know and going anyway. Since it was a dream, this pretense was enough to fool my classmates. Not one of them ever noticed that I had no business being at school. Neither did the teachers. I sat in the corner of my class, in the dreams, thinking about how much I really shouldn't be there. The school in the dreams was not the Kanagawa Prefectural Noba High School that I had actually gone to. Rather, it was a school I had never seen. For starters, Noba uniforms didn't have a clasp. They were blazers. Nevertheless, I knew all kinds of things about the school. To make a long story short, the setting for Boogiepop and Others, Shinyo Academy, is that school from my dreams. The only part of this novelette is fantasy. The rest is something different. I think I failed miserably at being a teenage boy. I never once thought I was young, or had a future. I often do now. I never actively participated in class or anything else. I just sat there, wondering what I was doing there, and after I graduated, I wondered why I spent so much time thinking about those sorts of things. I don't particularly understand myself. So, even now, I don't really get the idea of going to school. I was 28 when I wrote this novel, and over 10 years have passed since I graduated. Even if I try to find the answer, I no longer have a school to go to, so the whole thing is permanently out of reach. It's all too late now. It's one of many, but this, what did I do in school, question is a pretty big trauma for me. It's like my first love that I never asked out. Ugh. I was a dirty little angst-ridden idiot without a single thought for love. I imagine the reason behind the dreams is my conviction that I would be much better at being a high school student now. Ultimately, school is a place where you have to be with others. That's all. It ends without you ever really understanding much about each other. But even so, you bump into a lot of people and a lot of thoughts, and you still come back for more. Sadly, schools are not exactly set up to preserve that diversity. Isn't that right, you readers who are still in school? I can't help but think that's a crying shame. But the entire world seems to work that way, and school isn't that unique of a place in the world. That's why, in my dreams, I'm always thinking, God, I really hated that guy, but now I wish I'd known him a little better. And I do all this while sitting there in the corner of the room. This is less of an afterword than a confession, isn't it? Whatever. This has been an Ectro's Parlor production of Boogiepop and Others, Volume 1. Written by Kouhei Kadono. Translation by Andrew Cunningham. Cover art by Koji Ogata. Read by Ectro.
And Holly. Produced by Ectro. Directed by Ectro. Post-production by Ectro's Parlor. Boogiepop and Others Volume 1 is also available in print and as an ebook by 7 Seas Entertainment. For more 7 Seas Entertainment productions, visit them at www.7seasentertainment.com. Thank you for listening.
Text copyright 1998 by Kouhei Kadono. English translation copyright 2006 by 7 Seas Entertainment. Audio production copyright does not exist. No rights reserved.
This audiobook is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents are either the product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously, and any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, events, or locales is entirely coincidental.
Ectro's Parlor hopes you have enjoyed this production.